everyone. Welcome to this session of ConsensusCON entitled Best Run Demolytics with your presenter, Alex Asmus. ConsensusCON is focused on helping customers and our future customers scale pre-sales by getting the most out of consensus demo automation. Our presenter lineup includes some of our top accounts, industry experts, our internal employees, and others. We're happy to announce that in a few days, we're going to be launching a user forum to help you build the user community, give you a space to communicate with one another, and discuss best practices for using consensus. We're also going to start a monthly webinar series beginning in December to continue to provide resources for our user base. And we are recording this session and other sessions of ConsensusCON so that you can go back to them after or share them with people that weren't able to attend. We are going to hold a Q&A session after the presentation. If you have questions, you can use the chat, but I'd encourage you to use the Q&A section. It's easier to manage all the questions that way. Just to give you a quick introduction to Alex, he is a senior digital transformation consultant at SAP Concur. He has a vast experience in pre-sales and academic training and project management, and so he's helped the Concur team and their progressive selling motion team evolve a digital sales strategy and been a core tenet of their global distribution. Outside of work, Alex hails from Minneapolis, Minnesota. He enjoys running, relaxing at the cabin, and spending time with his wife and their 1-year-old daughter and their 2 dogs. So Alex, I'll switch it over to you. Feel free to jump and take the screen share away.
All righty. Can you hear me okay?
If everyone can hear Alex, if you would use the hand raise function, raise your hand.
Can you hear me?
Testing. Looks like we got some hand raises there.
Perfect, perfect.
If you could put your hands down and then raise your hands after Alex, if you pull the screen share away, and they'll raise their hands if they can see your new screen share.
Yep. It's actually not, it's not letting me while you're sharing, Taylor, so maybe you have to stop.
Okay.
Let me try it now. Okay. Yep, looks like we're doing good. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
It's like we got some new hand raises.
All right, Taylor, I might have to lean on you to see that because my panelist or my participant window went away.
No worries.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining this session. Looks like we're coming up to the home stretch of ConsensusCON. I'm excited to have the privilege to be able to speak to you. SAP Concur has been using Consensus for a little while now, and it's been a core tenet of our go-to-market success with some of our solutions, but we'll get into that in just a minute. The first thing I wanted to do was just throw this up on the screen. So I know this might be a little bit cheesy, but I'm sure many of you have seen this before, know exactly what movie this is from, but this is from The Wolf of Wall Street. So if any of you haven't seen this, I'll give you some context, as this is I thought a really good way to frame up what we're going to cover today, or really did a good job of summarizing it in a very easy way. So in this movie, the main character, Leonardo DiCaprio, playing Jordan Belfort, who's a famous, or maybe I should say infamous, investor in the past. He was sitting at a lunch table with some friends and some people that wanted to work for him. And he said, okay, if you're a great salesperson to the people wanting to work for them, he gave them a pen. He said, sell me this pen then. It seems kind of like a pretty simple, pretty ridiculous question, but the answers he got were some of the answers you sometimes hear in modern demonstrations and in sales conversations. It's, wow, this pen has many good features. Oh, wow, it writes really nice. I think this will help you out a lot with your penmanship, things like that. And that's not at all what he was looking for. And so when he gave that pen to one of his colleagues, one of his best salespeople, he said, all right, sell me this pen. And his salesperson said, all right, well, give me that pad of paper there. And so he gave him the pad of paper. And then he gave Leonardo DiCaprio the pen and said, all right, could you just write your autograph on that piece of paper, please? He says, I can't. I don't have the paper. You have it. And he says, exactly. So what does that mean? What is that going to mean in the context of what we're going to talk about today? The whole thing that happened there happened, it was solution selling. It was business outcome selling in its most basic form. It's quickly uncovering the need of a customer down to its core level and being able to demonstrate how you can solve that core problem. Again, that's how we're going to frame the conversation today. And if any of you on the call today were fortunate enough to see Andy Paul do his presentation yesterday in the morning, his presentation was about the importance of discovery. And the really big takeaway I personally had from that presentation was the speed of discovery equals the speed of influence. And by discovery, the most important thing that he demonstrated was we need to be able to get to the business outcome level, to the core value level of why a customer or a buyer might be looking at a piece of software or a service or whatever it is. We need to get down to the grassroots level of the financial impact, the cultural impact, the real true root impact or value that buyer is going to realize when looking at a product or a service. We need to be able to identify that as quickly as possible so we can demonstrate how we fit our solution or our service into that. And the faster we can do that, the better. So a little reintroduction to myself. Taylor did a great job, but my name is Alex Asmus again. I'm a senior digital transformation consultant with SAP Concur. I've been with that organization for a little over 6 years now. I have an extensive background throughout my entire career, even during college in specifically sales and many years in pre-sales as a solutions consultant, or many of you might know it as a solutions engineer, sales engineer. There's a lot of different titles for that. And I have a big background in project management. So as Taylor had mentioned, as my organization has been rolling out different digital solutions, it's been my role to help create the strategy, help maintain the tools, and provide the enablement to our distribution teams to successfully be digital sellers, which is very important in today's digital age, especially nowadays with the global pandemic and everything. A little bit about SAP Concur. We're an industry leader in travel expense and invoice automation, and we've been in business for over 25 years. So it's been a core tenet of our organization to be in the forefront of digital transformation. I mean, we've seen it all from selling software in little cardboard boxes to a software as a service cloud-based solution today. And we've modernized our go-to-market approaches with that. And we like to say we've probably led in many ways for that. So to get into the presentation, I want to start with a question that maybe you all have an answer in your mind for. So what is one of the biggest challenges facing sales or distribution teams today? Think about that for a moment. What's one of the biggest challenges? Well, it's actually two things, but they're very interwoven. So I consider it one. It's one, buyer engagement, keeping our buyers interested in what we're trying to present to them, and conversion rates. And by conversion rates, what I mean is not just closing a sale, not just getting a customer signed and on board with our service or our solution, but it's keeping them engaged and converting them throughout the sales cycle, whether it's going from a discovery stage session to a demonstration, or a demonstration maybe to a final financial evaluation. Those conversion rates are the utmost important thing. And there's an old adage in sales that time kills all deals, especially nowadays when our buyers are being bombarded with different solutions, different services, especially if what you offer is a digital solution or service. Our buyers are constantly getting bombarded by all the great tools that are out there. So they're having a hard time and they have a lot of apprehensiveness as to what they really want to spend their time on evaluating. So the faster that we can have a journey for our customers, the faster we can get them to value, the time to value, we like to say, the more success we're going to have as an organization. So to provide a little context to this, we're going to play a little number game. I have 3 numbers on the screen. I don't expect you to get these right, what you think these means, but go ahead and take a guess. These are just a couple statistics that I think are very impactful and really frame up what we're going to teach you today. 1, the number 50. 50% of sales time is spent educating prospects. So as we're talking about time to value, over half of our sellers' time is being spent with verbal meetings with our prospects or our buyers, with demonstrating, with discovery, with follow-up discovery and demonstration, et cetera, et cetera. That's a lot of time when you think about it, when our distribution teams could be spending some of that time maybe generating more lead or demand gen, or maybe helping with onboarding of a client to make sure they have a great experience. Number 3, it takes on average 3 or more months to convert and close deals only $5,000 or more. That seems like a lot of time. That's on average. And down in the bottom corner, I've pulled these numbers actually directly from the Consensus white papers you can find on the Consensus site. So there's a lot of really good analytics on the Consensus website that you can see in addition to what I'm showing you here. But when you think about that, 3+ months to convert a deal, and as deals or sales get larger and larger up to, let's say, $100,000 enterprise deal or more, that number only increases. It's a lot of time, especially when we consider 50% of our sellers' time are going into that. Now, here's the good news. 26, by leveraging digital technology and a modern demonstration approach, you can reduce sales time by at least 26%. So that's why we're all here, right? We want to increase engagement and reduce that time to value by increasing those conversion rates of our buyers. So that's the good news. And to give you a little proof, as I had mentioned, SAP Concur is a Consensus user today, and we deployed Consensus effectively throughout our entire distribution team just within the last year, where it's been a core business as usual go-to-market solution for our entire distribution team globally. Some proof, what we've experienced here at our organization is I specifically support small to medium-sized businesses, but these numbers scale to our enterprise organizations as well. But we've seen less than 30 days average conversion to close sales. That's extremely fast. That's really, that was a game changer for us. Secondly, we've experienced 31% buyer engagement with the different digital solutions like Consensus that we've rolled out, along with a really solid go-to-market strategy around how we use digital. 31% buyer engagement. That's huge. And what engagement means is people watching our content, people interacting with our interactive demos, and staying engaged with the sales process and sales cycle so we can get them to that value, that end game. So that's just what we've experienced. And we see the acceleration of those numbers consistently as we continue to leverage digital in a lot of these different tools. So hopefully that gives you some assurance that this works. Now, how do we get there? How do you get there? How can we create an environment on increasing those engagement rates, in reducing the time to value and increasing the conversion rates of our interactions with our buyers? So it's a two-pronged approach. There's a really great white paper on the Consensus site that talks about the different stages of a sales funnel and how demonstration fits into those different sales cycles and what that looks like. When you think about the early parts of the sales funnel, the evaluation parts of that a buyer goes through, a lot of that can be automated. That's exactly where a tool like Consensus comes in to provide someone with a choose your own adventure automated experience that can help reduce the amount of time our sellers have to interact with them directly. But as you go along, there is going to be a need for an in-person human discovery or demonstration. And that demonstration is critical to the success of most deals that you're going to interact with. So that's the two-prong approach. We're going to talk about what a modern demonstration looks like, how we can flip the script on how we demonstrate when we do have that opportunity with our buyers, and then how a tool like Consensus can help supplement and help improve the demonstrations and ultimately reduce that time to value that we're experiencing. So the first prong is the demonstration itself. So here at SAP Concur, this is something we've worked on for many, many years. This is an initiative that we created years ago to adopt a modern approach to demonstrating. So what does that even mean? What is a modern approach to demonstrating? I thought it just means showing our products, showing our services, and trying to tie it to what the customer is looking for. Well, it's a lot more than that. Many years ago, Concur adopted a philosophy from To Win Global, amongst some other different philosophies. If you're not familiar with To Win Global, they're one of the more premier consulting global services that has to do with pre-sales, specifically around demonstrating and creating a modern demonstration approach. That's something that we really took to heart. We really bought into and ran with, because it has many, many good teachings on how we can modernize today's demonstration. So to give you some context as to what that might look like and what a modern demonstration looks like, we're going to walk through the traditional and show you how we can improve that demonstration. So what does a typical demo look like? Whether it's a product, whether it's a service, something that we're offering to our buyers. So maybe we had a discovery with that customer. Maybe your sales exec had an initial evaluation conversation, and let's pretend we're going into that demonstration today. Well, here's our agenda for our demonstration today. You had mentioned to us that there was 3 core features that were important to you. So today we're going to go through feature 1, and I'll explain what that does, and I'll explain how that can help you. And then we're going to go into feature 2, and we're going to explain that as well. And it's going to be really, really awesome. And then we're going to talk about feature 3. Feature 3 is going to be the best of everything. It's going to be the real culmination of what you're looking for. And I'll show you how that can help out your business. Maybe you've been in a demonstration like this before. I have, I know I have, and I've seen it time and time again from other solutions that I've watched demonstrations from. And usually as you go into this demonstration, you might, if you're one of the people that do demonstrate in this way today, or maybe you don't know it, here are some of the traps or some of the key phrases that if you're demonstrating to a customer or you're sitting on a demonstration yourself, these are the called demo crimes. This is from To Win Global's Demonstrating to Win. These are some of the key phrases you'll say or you'll hear when you know it's one of those old school kind of demos that we're trying to get away from. So if I'm demonstrating feature number 1, I might be going through the product and I'll say, oh yeah, which by the way, this feature also will help you accomplish what you're looking for. And then as I go on, maybe another feature that we offer is this cool button that will allow you to do these really amazing things with your organization. Oh, and I forgot to mention this little button up here. This little button does a great job of driving some efficiency in your organization. And as I get to the end of the demonstration, oh, wait, I almost forgot. I love this part. This button, this feature over here, this feature is going to make all your dreams come true. And here is what your buyer is doing right now as you go through that demonstration. This is where everyone falls asleep, waits, looks at their watch and waits for the lunch hour to come around because we've lost them. So how do we flip the script? That's the old way of demoing. And I'm sure that if you've been on demonstrations, whether it's recently or in the past, you've probably been in an exact scenario just like that. I know I have. So what does a world-class demo look like? What is a really modern demonstration approach? As I had mentioned in Andy Paul's presentation the other day, it's all about demonstrating with business outcomes at the forefront. It's not feature 1, it's not feature 2, it's not feature 3. It's creating an agenda and creating an experience that your agenda is those business outcomes. This is something we've put a lot of work into at SAP Concur to say we're not going to go to our customers and say we're going to demonstrate these core features because you've said they're important. What we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can have a consumer grade user experience. We're going to show you how you can drive greater efficiency and control, have real-time visibility and a fast time to value when you adopt our solution. These are the core business outcomes you're going to see And this is what we're going to walk through in our demonstration. And the features are just a supplement to how we're going to help you achieve those core business values, because that's what you've said are key to us. And the more specific those different business outcomes are, the more effective that demo is going to be. So think about that. We're going from a feature function type demo to selling or demonstrating value. And the features and functions just help us get there. Not only does that help you get to the root of what's truly important to our buyers as you show product or service, but it's going to help simplify your conversations and your demos because you're only focusing on what your buyers care about. Now, the last thing I want to say in regards to this is nowadays when we demonstrate to various clients, it's a much more complicated process. Today, we're seeing buyers with more committee buying processes. Most organizations culturally want to have buy-in from their clerical workers all the way to their front-end workers, to their executive team and their boards. There's a lot of different personalities, a lot of different people in different roles that value different things. So how do we demonstrate to all these different people? How are we able to encompass all those different perspectives into a single demonstration, all while trying to achieve our goal of increasing engagement and reducing the time it takes in the buying journey to reduce those cycle times? How do we know that? So this is where Demolytics come in, and this is where Consensus came in. And this was the aha moment here at SAP Concur when we started rolling out digital solutions and really brought the world of digital and video together with that modern approach to demonstrating. So what we did is we looked at the early stages of the sales funnel, and we said, we're not going to take these interactive demos and just take our product demo and make it digital and make it interactive. We want to think about that earlier stage. We want to think about business outcomes with how we use these interactive demos. So what we did is we said, well, if we have buyers that are in the early stage of their journey with us, what if we created a demo that specifically talked about business value? It had nothing to do with our product or what we do. It talked about them. It talked about what their top priorities were for business. So what we did is created an interactive demo and put a lot of effort into making sure we made this a really engaging piece of content. So before I give you more insight into what this looks like, when you think of those business priorities and you think of all those different business outcomes and those core values, all those stakeholders in an organization has or an organization has in general, what we found, and I'm sure as you think about this, what you'll probably find within your organization is there's more than likely only a small set of specific core values that are common to all the buyers that are looking at your product or service. We call those value wedges. And those value wedges are things that you can repeat, that the majority of your prospects or your buyers are looking to get out of a solution like yours for whatever reason. And that's repeatable across different buyers. Those themes are the same. There might be some outlying different themes or things like that, but as you're thinking about building the strategy, I would highly recommend think about those 3 or 4 core concepts that the majority of your buyers find valuable in the solution that you provide, and make sure they're core values that you do better than your competition as well, because that's where you can really provide additional value. So that's exactly what we did. Sustainable growth, maximizing profitability, empowering business with data, optimizing performance. Those are the 4 things that we heard from our buyers over 25 years of business. That was the common core themes of why people decided to look for our solutions. So we doubled down on that. So as we built out this interactive experience for our buyers, we even created content to go into these interactive demonstrations that included live people on screen, that included production value that we hired, that we tried to make this the most professional experience possible, to make sure that as people viewed this content, it wasn't only relevant, but it was also very, very engaging. And we did a lot of research into what creates engaging content. And there's some other sessions during ConsensusCon here that I'd highly recommend. My colleague Amy Gordon is talking about how to create the perfect content. So I highly recommend checking the recording out for that one if you are inclined. But as we create this interactive content around business outcomes and business value, here's the Demolytics behind it. What we were extremely pleased to find out once we started using this go-to-market strategy of leveraging this type of a demonstration early in the sales funnel is we found out not only were we able to learn early on in a evaluation process what was important to our specific buyers based on the selections they chose are their business priorities, but we found that as that content was shared internally with the same organizations we were working with, we found that different stakeholders within those organizations had different pieces of value. They had different things that they considered valuable given their role. And that was really interesting. So when we think about going to that actual maybe in-person demonstration or that future more functional evaluation that they ultimately had to go through, we already knew what all these stakeholders found valuable. So we were able to tailor that demonstration to those specific value drivers or those value points. And again, the important thing is we didn't even have to have a conversation to do this. We were able to send this content in this interactive demo early on in the sales funnel, and we were already able to retain analytics as to what these people and this organization within that buying process found valuable. That was very, very powerful. So before we tie that all together, one thing I want to mention is deploying a strategy like this, while it seems pretty straightforward, or it probably makes sense, it's not as easy, we found, as it seems. What we need to do and what I recommend thinking about is how are you going to enable your sellers or your distribution teams on taking this philosophy of a modern demonstration approach that is a value-based selling approach, a business outcome-based selling approach, and coupling that with interactive demonstrations or digital selling tools like Consensus. That's a much more challenging feat that we uncovered. And so what I would say to that is it takes a lot of thought and it takes a lot of effort to develop an enablement strategy for your distribution teams to adopt this. As I had mentioned, I've been on many, many demonstrations and product evaluations, and even today, they're all the same. They're all the old school way of demonstrating, the old school way of bringing someone through that buying journey. And we're trying to break that mold. And I promise the majority of sellers that are out there today that you might be looking to hire or have on staff, they need a little help to learn this new way of doing things. Again, this digital age we're in is moving extremely fast, faster than many people can keep up with. But if we can create an enablement, very specific enablement framework for our buyers, then that's the best thing we can do. It also takes buy-in from our organization to be able to take our entire go-to-market strategy and boil that into 4 core concepts or 4 core value edges. It takes buy-in from our entire organization to identify and really lean into those different core concepts and say, this is what we're going to do. So what you're seeing here is just an example of what we did to help enable our salespeople. We trained them on the tools that they had available to them to go to their buyers with. But even more importantly, we were very prescriptive on how we wanted our buyers to use this. Because again, our goal is to grab those Demolytics, to get those Demolytics from the interactive demos, these 4 priorities interactive demos that we created, so we can use that in the later sales funnel as we tailor our future conversations and demonstrations. So we said, whenever you have an initial sales call with someone that raised their hand to evaluate our product really early on, we said, we need you to send this interactive demo. And we gave them proof why that's important. And just to give you some insight into some of the proof that we found is the average retention of personalized video is 35% higher than non-personalized videos. So in addition to this interactive demonstration that we created, we also encouraged the use of a personal video by that sales professional to get them to be enticed to watch the interactive content. So having a personal touch we found was really important as well. We said with that personal video and an interactive demonstration, if you can send that out, what we found is 50% of buyers choose the vendor that's first to respond. So you need to get this content out to them quickly, even before that initial sales conversation. Send them an initial personal video with that interactive demonstration because, hey, maybe they'll watch that demo and maybe you'll already know what their value is before you even have your initial sales conversation. And lastly, by automating the custom product demos early in the sales funnel, clients have cut their sales cycles by 68%. That was actually something from Consensus, and that's something that we've realized here at Concur is by leveraging these interactive demos to reduce the amount of conversations and early stage demos we've had to do, it's cutting the sales cycles significantly. And again, that's one of our main goals early on in this presentation. So again, we not only need to create the philosophy and the culture of a modern demonstration coupled with digital technology, with video, but we need to create a very specific enablement plan for our go-to-market strategy so our buyers know what this looks like and what the importance is. Once you do that, and here's what we've done at SAP Concur, is once you have this concept down pat, this is where we can expand upon it. So outside of just business priorities, when we think of automating other parts of the sales funnel, we were able to more accurately frame maybe more functional demonstrations, which we leveraged Consensus to do. So we created demonstrations based on the functionality of our solution, but we framed it in regards to business outcomes, not features and functions. So not only were we able to provide different buyers within an organization what they needed from a functional standpoint, those different pieces of video content, but we were able to frame it around those business priorities. So we were able to elaborate on that further and further. So let's just recap what we went over. Again, it was a two-pronged approach. The first step is we need to evolve our demo. We need to think more modern on a business outcome basis, moving away from a feature function type of an experience by leveraging Demolytics and creating an agenda or a demonstration process for our buyers that's engaging by keeping business outcomes and value drivers at the forefront of every conversation and every demonstration that you provide to them, whether interactive through Consensus or other digital tools, or that live in-person demonstration. So going back to the question, what is one of the biggest challenges facing sales teams today? Well, it's buyer engagement and conversion rates. So obviously by using digital technology, allowing people to choose their own adventure, watch content on their own time, we're creating engagement, and we can continue to feed that content to our buyers so they can keep engaged with us throughout the entire sales process. But because we're bringing those Demolytics back into our sellers' hands and our pre-sales hands, we're able to now frame every conversation and demonstration around those business drivers. And the side effect of that is improving conversion rates and increasing the time to value, increasing how quickly we can convert these various deals. So I'm going to leave you with a recipe. One last thing that really summarizes everything we touched on today, how you can take these concepts and start thinking about and writing out what you want to do using these concepts on value-based demonstrating. One, first identify your value wedges. Think about your organization, think about the products that you sell, the services that you offer, and what are those 3 or 4 core things that are very common in all your different customers' evaluations? And what are those 3 or 4 things that you not only see common, but do better than your competition? Once you identify that, you can develop interactive demos or live demonstrations around those value wedges. Those 3 to 4 core concepts should keep reoccurring throughout the entire valuation process, because that's really what's important to your buyers from end to end. Third, you need to create an enablement strategy. It's one thing to come up with this philosophy and these concepts, but it's another thing to deploy it and to get your entire distribution team to not just buy into it, but really understand how to do it. So it really takes some thought to create an enablement strategy that's specific and has buy-in from organization leadership all the way down to your individual sellers. And then finally, lean on the Demolytics, lean on the data that the interactive demos through Consensus give you, because that's not just the information that your prospects want to see, but that's the information you can leverage to really create an experience for your customers when you go to a demonstration, maybe a live demonstration, to make it very specific to the things that they've indicated are important to them. So that really wraps it up. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I really want to thank you for spending some time. Hopefully you took away a little bit of great ideas on how you can evolve your sales process and how you demonstrate to your buyers.
Really great. Thanks so much, Alex. Thanks for sharing all the tidbits from your company too. A couple questions that I saw. One was, what stages of the sales cycle at SAP Concur has Consensus made the biggest impact?
That's a great question. So I will say what we talked about today was specifically focused on the area that we actually saw the biggest impact. So that's the early stage part of the sale. It was actually quite surprising when we first rolled out some of these solutions. Based on the engagement rates of our demonstrations and our content, the highest percentage of engagement were those early stage demos, those demos around business outcomes that had nothing to do with features, functions, and things like that. That's where we saw over 31% engagement from small business on up to larger scale clients of ours and buyers. So again, that was actually kind of surprising to us, but it told us that we were on the right track when it comes to solution selling.
Very interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. One other thing here, would you recommend enabling your sales reps to be able to see those Demolytics as well? Or would you recommend mostly leaving those for managers?
That's an awesome question. So to get into the meat of that a little bit, what we did is you absolutely need to enable not just your sellers, but your pre-sales, your solutions consultants, and your management team, how to leverage those analytics. What we did at our organization was especially train our pre-sale specialists. So what we did was we said, create these demos, send them early on around that initial sales conversation you have so we can start gathering those analytics on what's important to them. But in Consensus, there's a place where you can actually add notifiers, and a notifier is someone within your organization that also gets the alerts and the ability to view those Demolytics as well as that sales rep. So part of our enablement strategy was to make sure that the salespeople knew how to add their pre-sales consultants as well as their manager to those demos. Because again, let's say a sale moved all the way to a live demonstration towards the later part of the sales funnel. That solutions consultant or that sales engineer, they were able to look back on those early analytics on business value, and they were able to frame their demonstration around that versus, again, the feature function demo, much like we talked about during the talk today.
Really interesting. Thanks so much, Alex. I don't see any other questions coming in. If anyone else has any final ones, feel free to pop them in the chat. But for me, I learned a lot from this session, and I'm excited to be able to share it out with others once we have the recording.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Taylor, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. I'll let you go.
All right. Cheers.